but I'm going to shift to if you were in charge, or I should say, do you feel like you're in a box? Are crew chiefs in a box? Too much of a box? Would you like to see more innovation in this? Yeah, I know. You're not gonna get fined. Trust me. I ask crew chiefs this all the time. Do you feel like you're in a box and you could be better if there was more innovation in the sport?
I do. You know what I mean? Like if they, we'll pick on it a little bit. If they would open up tires a little bit, you know what I mean? Like different compounds, all these things. I think that would make the racing more interesting, for sure. I think if they allowed us to do some different things with the wing, you know what I mean? Like maybe bring the dish wing back, but you can only run a
Oh,
1 inch wicker bill,
I love
and you
it.
run. Huh?
Love the dish. Go ahead. I'm
Yeah.
sorry. I had a
Yeah,
moment
no, no,
there.
no, no. So, or you can run a flat with a 2 inch wicker bill. You know what I mean? Like,
Sure.
okay, give some options because maybe that fits into our program. Maybe it doesn't fit into whoever's program. So I think there are some things that I would like to see them open up and let us, kind of think a little bit outside the box. Because again, to a certain extent, all the rules that we came up with, wings, tires, wheels, tethers, some are in the name of safety, all these things, but we've never focused on the thing that costs the most, which is the motor. And it actually
Yeah.
absolutely drives me insane because it's like, you know, I respect the dollar because I had my own team. Like, why can't we put a compression limit on them? The fans wouldn't notice, motors would live longer, but then it's something they have to check.
Oh, don't
So
get me started on teching.
I know, I
Yeah.
know, I know. So yeah, I think they should open up the box and worry about things that cost us the most. You know what I mean? Versus a $300 or $400 bird cage that the Outlaws said, "Oh no, that's going to change the game," and they chuck it out before anybody even gets a chance to run it.
Does the wicker bill like I kind of felt that way about the wicker bill from 1 inch to 1.5? Does it matter? Is it such a small change? Does it change anything you do?
The
The
Jacob's
wicker
ladder
bill.
thing.
Well,
Oh, the
they
wicker
were,
bill. The
yeah.
wicker bill. Yeah, I mean it did. Like that half inch on the wicker bill, I think for sure sits the
Okay.
car down. Just because of the way it like catches air there on the left side board at the back and everything. Yeah, I think it does. I think it's a pretty good change. And maybe it's not going to 2 inch was a good answer because we went to 2 inches. Sometimes you ended up so locked down that virtually anybody could drive the race car.
Okay.
So they're
Yeah, I've
trying to
heard
find a
that
happy.
from Lance.
Yeah, they were trying to find a happy medium. That's what they were trying to do.
Was there anybody who you leaned on going into the job with Schuhart, maybe another crew chief on the road, who for advice,
Mhm.
how to approach this, how to. I mean, look, it's different being a crew chief in Central PA and then being one on the road with the World of Outlaws with a
Mhm.
team like Shark Racing
Mhm.
that has some success. Was there anybody you leaned on, maybe get some advice or starting point or anything like that?
Well, I mean, you kind of again over the years, I've tried to watch and model myself after the guys that I feel like are very good with the race cars, with their teams, and how they present themselves. So, like one of the guys that I've watched from a distance, just like you talked about, watching people from a distance, has always been Phil Dietz. Um,
Good one to
and I talked,
watch.
yeah, and I talked to him on and off, and I actually almost went and worked with them before I went to McCandless's as a car chief, just to kind of get my foot in the door of the Outlaws. Um, but I watched guys like him, and I talked to guys that have been out on the Outlaw tour, like Kirk DeWeese, like Sean Norris, and just kind of get an idea. Troy Renfro out in Iowa, me and him talk a lot.
Mm-hmm.
He's been on the Outlaw tour, and it's kind of like they described to me, it's kind of like having a kid. You don't really know until you do it. But you just have to prepare yourself, be prepared ahead of time, and take it, day by day. The window time is probably the worst. The racing is racing. It's what we're used to. We're just going to see different tracks. But again, a portion of that is taken out because Logan Schuhart's done this for 12 years. So that alleviates a lot of pressure off me because he has a notebook. And even if it's one that he struggles at a track, I can still look at it and say, okay, here's where I think you struggle or why. So it's not like I'm starting up a brand new team and taking out on the Outlaw Tour.
Right.
Some of that pressure is taken away because of what they've done.
How important is it to have worked with him in the past? Even though it was a 358, even though just even being from the same area, general area, has that kind of made this thing click easier?
Maybe. We didn't really talk much. I mean, I didn't work with him. I raced against him.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So we didn't really like talk much. Saw him a few times at Speedweek 94, racing go-karts, just playing around, whatever. But yeah, I don't know what it is. It's just, we just got along right away. We both had the same goals in mind, with the championship and being consistent and winning all the crown jewels, and working hard. And, I mean, Logan is one of them drivers that he's working out all the time. He's taking care of himself. He's doing the things to make him better in a race car. So as a crew chief, that motivates me even more, because it's like, okay, he's putting in his work. I'm going to do whatever it takes to give him everything I got.
Did you ever imagine that you would end up with a top 10 team in the country?
No. Like when they called and, they're like, that's why I say, like, I kind of like, it was a mixed bag of emotions. So I'm like, well, how am I going to help him? And I literally asked that like 2 or 3 times. And it wasn't, being funny. It was being legit, because they've got a top 10 team. So it's like, man, how do you help them? Because at this point, the help is like, minor adjustments. It's the difference between a winning Outlaw car and like 6th or 7th place. There's not a lot. Like, it's literally fine tuning, and you know what I mean? So,
right.
Yeah, I mean, it was, it still has moments where it's like, holy crap, this actually happened, So yeah, I'm blessed, flattered, and just want to do a good job. So we're just going to work hard at it.
How long? I mean, you're 45.
Yeah.
I mean, how long do you see yourself doing this? I know that's hard because you just got this job.
Yeah.
And you really haven't experienced the road like you're going to see, which is coast to coast, all these different tracks, a 90 race season, which will probably be around 70 with all the rainouts.
Right.
Just judging by what you are doing now, is this something that you could see yourself doing 15 years?
I think so. Yeah. Yeah. I'm taking care of myself physically better to prepare for this, just like Logan does, because when you're out on the road, I mean, it wears on your body too. The heat and cold and the elements and the late nights and all those things. And I have to be prepared to help him. You know what I mean? Because if I'm tired, if my body's not cooperating, first thing that goes is your mind. So I'm doing that. But yeah, I love this sport. It's all I ever wanted. I mean, that's why sometimes, you get a little emotional, because it's like, damn, like it actually happened, because again, a lot of people, and I pride myself on this, I didn't waver from my goal. My goal kind of changed a little bit from the driving aspect to the crew chief aspect. But a lot of younger people, a lot of people that I know in life, they don't stick with something for 35, 40 years before they see the fruition. They just won't. And so, like, I take pride in that, and I'm grateful for the opportunity. So as long as I can do it, I'm going to do it.
Well, you have a good start. That's for sure. And again, Kyle, I know you're busy. I know you got Volusia in a couple weeks, but I appreciate you joining us on the deep dive. Want to get people to know you a little more, because we talked about you being the new crew chief and whatnot. And again, I appreciate you joining us for this interview.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me. And again, like, it's everybody involved that has got me to this point. So anybody that's out there that's helped me, taught me, answered questions, worked with me, I appreciate it, because this is where it's got me to.
Well, thank you very much.
All right. Thanks, Jeremy.
Welcome to another edition of the SprintCarUnlimited.com live program. I appreciate everybody joining us on a chilly Northeast night, especially anybody tuning in, asking questions on the phones, whatever. We're going to keep things pretty much, like it was last week. We're going to mix some phone calls in, if anything comes in, with our rapid fire questions from the chat. So before we get started, I wanted to hit on a couple of storylines from over the week. It was kind of light. We had some USAC action down south in Florida at Ocala and Volusia. So first thing is, how good was Dason Persley and Chad Boat in the 6 USAC events at Volusia and Ocala? He had 6 races and 6 podiums. He won the finale at Ocala, worth $10,000. And that's a 2.16 average finish for his time in a non-wing car. And I would say that's probably pretty good. And I think people in USAC, the regulars, probably should be happy that Dason Persley is going winged racing with high limit this year, and that Chad Boat is not running full-time for the USAC Sprint title. Moving on, obviously, Brady Bacon hasn't lost his touch in a non-wing car. He showed that last Thursday night at Ocala. In only his 4th race with the Chris Dyson number 20, he puts it in victory lane. It was his 59th series win and 6th at Ocala. Over the summer, he mentioned to me about running more wing races next year and cutting back on non-wing stuff. It's all about the money, of course, the purses. But he is going to still run some USAC series races when he sees fit, places he likes, events he likes. And I think he's going to be a factor anytime he rolls into the track in that Dyson machine. And the last one, and this will probably be most of the talking points tonight through the chat, and if we get any phone calls, is Lincoln Speedway takes center stage this week for the Central Pennsylvania Sprint Car season opener. They have races they have afternoon shows, on Saturday and Sunday. This was looking really dicey a little over a week ago with temperatures highs in the low 30s. That's since changed over the last 5 days. We're looking at about 41, 42 Saturday, roughly 47 on Sunday as of now. Of course, it could change because, it is the weather in the Northeast. But if I'm guessing, we get at least one of those shows in, and I'll say probably Sunday. So stay tuned. We'll have plenty of coverage on SprintCarUnlimited.com and on our YouTube platform. So we're going to jump in with any calls from the audience and or anything from the chat. So start firing away. We're ready to go. First one is good evening. Thank you very much. Same to you. Like I said, chilly in the Northeast. I'm sure it's better down south, but we'll see if we get some racing in this weekend. The first question comes from Jump the Cushion. Does it help or hurt the Woo teams to have such a long break at the start of the season? Ooh. It's going to help Gio Scelzi. I think it helps the teams who didn't do well at Volusia. They can regroup. But if you're a David Gravel, Kyle Larson, albeit he will not be back at Volusia, if the teams that do well, they want to keep going. It's like anything. If in any sport, you're doing well, you want to keep that momentum going. You want to keep going to the racetrack. If you struggled, you welcome the break. You get a chance to regroup and maybe maybe kind of salvage something at Volusia. I don't know if they like going back to the same track, but again, at least you know what to expect and maybe regroup. We do have our first caller. It's Mike on line 1.
Hi, Jeremy.
How are you?
I'm fine. How are you, sir?
Not too bad. What do you got for me?
Well, so I was talking to you last week about the 69K car, and I wanted to continue that conversation. Do you know what their schedule is?
Ooh, They haven't put it out yet. I know Ryan Smith is going to be driving the car, which, I just was talking on the podcast earlier, and, with all the success last year with Darren Pittman at the end of the season, and then with Christopher Bell being fast in Florida, does this put some pressure on Ryan Smith to do well? So it'll be an interesting year. We have not gotten the schedule yet. I do know they're going to Vegas. Christopher Bell is going to run it Thursday night. I assume they will have Ryan Smith in it Saturday, but I'm not sure yet. That has not been announced.
Okay, we're talking about this Saturday.
No. Vegas is the middle of March. It's like the 13th,
Okay.
15th. Yes. They will not be out this week. No way.
All right. And when is Lincoln?
Lincoln is Saturday and Sunday. They start at 3:00 each day. So it's in the middle of the afternoon.
Okay.
It's going to be a little chilly. So bring your coat.
Yeah. I can't get out in this weather. All right. I have one more thing I'd like to discuss is I have a weakness in that handicaps, and I can't find as much handicap accessibility as I would like at these racetracks. And I love to go out, but it's just not functional for me. And, got any tips for me?
Look, I often wonder when I walk around a racetrack if it's properly handicap accessible for the regulations that are out there. I know Lincoln does have a ton of handicap parking, and so I know if you're going to make it out to Lincoln, that's probably one of the best places for handicap parking. I know BAPS has good handicap parking, as does Port Royal. So from a parking standpoint, it's not too bad. I know BAPS has an elevator as well. So that's also nice for, as far as being handicap accessible. So I wish the tracks were better at it. Unfortunately, they're old facilities, and, they just haven't put the money into it for the handicap accessibility.
All right. So sorry to go off on that tangent.
That's okay.
One last question. Path Valley, never been there. I'm dying to go.
Yes, they have high limit and PA Speedweek this year. I've seen great races at Path Valley, like when Clausen was battling with Greg Hodnett, and other shows that were there were really good. I also saw one of the worst shows, which was Chad Kemenall, won in the Hunter racing car, the 10H. It was on the bottom. It rubbered up. Look, you're going to want to go to Path Valley. It'll probably be one of the best Speed Week shows, and it's going to be a preview for that high limit show in September. So I think it'll be worth the trip and worth the money to get into the place.
Yeah, I'm going. I put two on my list this summer: Grandview high limit and Path Valley for Speed Week. How small is Path Valley? I mean, like 2/3 the size of Lincoln?
Path Valley's smaller than Grandview a little bit. But it's banked, it's wide, it'll provide good racing. A lot of guys like going there. It's like racing in a thimble. So it's definitely it's definitely worth the trip. You'll probably see a really, really good show there.
All right, what's the one expression I heard when they said, was it like driving a sprint car? They said it's like driving a jet airplane in a gymnasium.
Yeah, no, it is. And the high limit, speaking of, you could get tickets for the high limit race at Path Valley, even though it's in September. You can get them right now on the high limit website. So definitely check it out.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, brother.
Yep. Thanks for calling. I appreciate it. All right. That was our first call of the week. That's pretty good. Pretty quick. We're going to go back to the chat. Dalton Ferris, who do you think is the favorite to win Power Eye and All-Star Regional Series? I'd say Power Eye. It's probably Ayrton Genitin. He races down in that area. He's been in that area for a long time. All-Stars, I don't think we're done with the All-Star roster yet. I think Devin Borden is a guy you got to watch. I think he'll be in the top 3. Caleb Henry had a really, really good season last year. So I think Caleb Henry right now and Borden are the favorite. If Cap Henry or one of those bigger guys in Ohio commit to it in the next 2 months or so, I think they are obviously the favorites, especially if Cap Henry runs it. Remember, this series doesn't start up until April. So there's still plenty of time to commit to it. But right now, no Cap Henry. So I'd say Caleb Henry and Devin Borden right now. Tyler Swank, our boy Tyler. One more question does this guy get? Tyler, be nice. Be nice. We'll take as many questions as possible. Good old Tyler Swank. John Kiley, Jeremy, let's not start racing and pay until April. Run those races in the fall. Weather seems better in the later part of the year anymore, but I might be at Lincoln Speedway this weekend. I used to be strongly against starting in February. Hated it. I'm not saying I like it, but what I do like that Lincoln has done is kind of gone to this 2 races in one weekend where they can cancel one. So it gives them an out. If they just had the date scheduled for Saturday and it was going to be 41 degrees, they're on the fence. Even with the rain date on Sunday, I'm of the belief that rain dates just don't work at all. So again, I like the 2 race weekend only because they can cancel one. I don't know if they'll run on Saturday. Obviously, that's the worst day, but having Sunday built in already, you can sell tickets to it, so on and so forth. I think it's a good out. It allows them to pick the better of the 2 days. So if we're going to race in February, which I'm not a big fan of, at least we can do it that way. Santos de la Cruz, what do you think about Port Royal finally walking back their decision on the season seed holders to the big shows? The short answer is it should have never gotten to that point. They did a deal where I guess you bought a seat, but it didn't count for the Weicker and the Tuscarora 50 unless you bought a season pass. So look, they needed to change this back. I'll give them credit for changing back, but I don't know why you would have come up with this policy to begin with. It made no sense to me. They should have known that it was going to piss off a lot of people, but I will give them credit for walking it back. Billy Dietrich, move both races to the following weekend. I'm not going to disagree. You can keep pushing it back and keep pushing it back, and it'll make me happy. Look, Billy, I think I might have talked to you or your brother Danny about this. Just start in March. Start in March. I'm big on starting in March. But again, a couple of years ago, they caught lightning in a bottle with that 70-degree night, moved it to Thursday, they hit a home run. So, if you're going to move it around, that's fine. And again, I do like the fact that they at least can pick the best of the 2 days and roll the dice. So, Brent Leach, opinion on the required extinguishers that are in some of the series. I have not seen one work as they are supposed to. Have you? I have seen a couple deployed in crashes and even leaving the car. Look, my problem with the extinguishers is that I don't know how they've been tested. Have they been tested properly? Have they been put through the paces to be a requirement? I always worry about that with sprint car racing, that we just kind of make rules or make additions and they're not tested. So somebody needs to tell me what the testing was like on these things, because you're right. They haven't done the job so far. And there's been malfunctions. Of course, everybody remembers the Carson Macedo deal at Knoxville, all that stuff. So, and the other thing is competition. I want to see it open to a bunch of different companies Competition means lower prices. It also means better products. Can we do it better? So I always, I'm on your side. I'd like to see it done better. Carson Macedo Racing. If you were the owner of a national wing sprint car team, would you run the World of Outlaws Tour or High Limit? Wow. Well, I think two different teams. It depends what type of team I wanted. If I was a team like, say, yours or David Gravel, I probably run Outlaws, where I don't care about running the freedom to run wherever. If I'm a team that maybe isn't as funded, or even though, look, it's expensive no matter what series you run, but if I wanted the freedom to run everywhere, to where I could maybe prep for the Knoxville Nationals a week that High Limit's off, I'd run High Limit. If I'm a new guy, if I'm an Emerson Axum, if I'm a younger guy, I probably run High Limit first. But because that's also the Outlaws are deeper up top. Sorry, not sorry. They're deeper up top. So, 80 races, 90 races this year. I don't know if I'd venture there first. If I was an established team, I'm running Outlaws. Tebow 99. Any Central PA teams to the All-Stars? None yet, and I doubt that happens. It's a 30 race series, and it would maybe make sense. But you're still traveling to Ohio. You're still traveling to New York. And really, there's only a couple teams that would do that. I know Dietrich has gone up to New York. I know Lucas Wolf has a sponsor. He's gone to New York. The sponsor, the beer distributors up there. I know, Anthony Macri, of course, goes everywhere. But other than that, no, I just don't see it. And I don't think it pays enough. To travel out to Ohio, I don't think those guys are going to do it for that amount of money. So I think the purses would need to be higher for anybody to do that. And also, I don't think there's teams, there's no professional teams here other than, Danny has used Parts Warehouse, Racers used Part Warehouse, and you have Anthony Macri. Other than that, you don't have professional teams. Billy Dietrich just spent over $200 to get fire bottle recertification. Money grabbed by Woo. Look, it's no coincidence, or at least I don't believe it's a coincidence, that the company that was selected is now an associate sponsor. The World of Outlaws have done this many times. As for the recertification, I don't know what the dollars and cents are as far as do the World of Outlaws get a cut of that or what. But let's face it, the reason they have that particular company or suggested company, I think there's two you can use. I'm not 100% sure on that, but it's because they are an associate sponsor. I believe certain other things have not become rules because they would not become an associate sponsor, which is in that $20,000 range last I checked. So, yes, some money grab. Dalton Ferris, any new news on Zeb Wise or Cale Thomas? None. Zero. Again, I think Zeb Wise is waiting around. I think Zeb is going to slow roll it, so to speak, to use a gambling term, and wait till a seat comes open. Zeb has no interest in running locally in Pennsylvania or just regionally in Ohio. He believes he should be on a national series, and I think he's going to wait for that. Cale Thomas, that one's odd to me a little bit. I'm not sure why no one's called him in Ohio. Maybe there's just not a ride open, but nothing new to report. What are your thoughts on the 5W for this season? Wow, that's a tough one. I think he can win more than he has in the past. I think he can win a couple races this year. They seem to get better toward the middle and ending stages of last year. So I think they can maybe knock off a couple. Look, I also think it helps that, when Anthony's not here, Danny goes to, say, Ohio Speedweek or someplace like that. Brent Marks running High Limit. I think those all help. Not that Lucas can't beat them, but I do think Lucas has had some struggles since some of his injuries. And, but I think they came around a little last year. I liked what I saw at times. I thought his consistency was up. So I think he can win a couple this year. Probably at Port Royal. I think he could definitely win one at Port Royal this year. Brett Perigo, I don't think wait a minute. I don't think there should be any part on a race car that you must run a specific brand company. I'm okay with limits within a part. Here's the problem with that. I don't disagree, but I think if you just open it to anything, look, we can't tech now. We struggle teching. So now you're going to want different, specific brand company. Maybe they make something different. Now you're going to have a tech guy or somebody, looking at that, and they don't know what they're looking at. Maybe it's different. Maybe it's in the car different. Maybe it looks different. Maybe the system reacts different. All those different things. I think I like more selections, but I don't think we can go too far. So I think it depends what it is and how many brands / manufacturers or companies there are. I think it's a slippery slope. I don't like them mandating one because it's a monopoly, but I don't like too many because we just won't be able to police it or have any standards. So I think there needs to be standards, 3 to 5 companies. Dalton Ferris, what streaming services have PA Racing Weekly? It's Flow and Dirt Vision. Dirt Vision has Williams Grove. Flow has Port Royal, and then they have select shows at Lincoln. SprintCarUnlimited.tv, selfless plug, I guess, or maybe selfish plug. We have the BAPS Motor Speedway sprint car shows. And we also have 4 Speedweek shows, which are BAPS, Grandview, Hagerstown, and Path Valley. I'm very happy to have the Path Valley one. I'll say that. So, but yeah, so that's it. Santos de la Cruz. I know this is beating a dead horse, but what is your opinion on dished wing versus flat wings with a wicker bill? I like dish wings because I thought the racing was better when the dish wings were in place. I've talked to a lot of drivers. I talked to Donnie Schatz about that. You got to be careful talking to race car drivers because a lot of them, they like what they like. So of course they're going to say when they were more successful, but Donnie's not really like that because Donnie is usually pretty successful no matter what. He could move around more with the dish wing. I like dish wings. I saw better racing. However, tires mean something. So is it the package? If you change to dish wings, is that going to solve the problem? Or is that going to make the racing better? Or does it need to be dish wings in conjunction with the tires? So I think there's some moving parts there. I like dish wings because I think you could do more. So but Kyle Puit said that the 1.5 inch wicker bill, he thought it made a difference. So we'll see how it pans out this year. Andy, hi mate. Do you keep an eye on the race in Australia, New Zealand? Yes, I do. I wish I could keep an eye on it more to where I could watch it. But yeah, I do. James McFadden had a great year in Australia this year, which doesn't surprise me at all. And I think he's, going back to Australia and racing in Australia more. I think he's going to be the guy to beat down there for many years to come. And I think he's actually going to be better than he was in the past because he ran Outlaws and High Limit. He competed over here for, a good number of times. And so I think the competition makes you better. He got top flight competition over here. Not that it's bad in Australia, but I think it's just going to make him that much better. Andrea Reitzel, of the already revealed car designs, do you have a few top cars? I'll tell you what I like. I like locally, I like Troy Wagaman Jr.'s. I really like that. I like Gio Scelzi's. I don't like, I'm not a Blackbeard guy. because they all look the same, and there's just too many lines going all over the place. And I'm not a big fan of it. Danny Dietrich's is okay. It's so odd seeing him with blue and black. But I like Troy Walkman's. If you take a look at it, it was on Twitter. I'm not a big fan of a Crayola crayon gone wild scheme. So, and I'm not a fan of the Blackbeard. Buddy Kofoid's okay because they went kind of back to the maroon, which was a Roth thing. So I kind of like that. Carson Macedo's is just the same. There's not a white around the number. They made it green. That's okay. But I still like Gio Salzi's. It's not too busy. I don't like schemes that are too busy. So, and I like Brad Sweet's. I like Brad Sweet's a lot. I think it's the best car Brad Sweet had for a while. William Wogman, Zemco car that was at Harrisburg last weekend. Is he going to be a Lincoln or Port Royal or we're never heard of them? Is that, well, I don't under, but look, the Zemco car, I don't think it's going to be it either. I don't know if the Zemco car is coming back. I think you're going to have to look for retro cars from now on because Tommy Carl's with Stamen Motorsports. There's a reason that happened. Simple as that. So I don't think we'll see a Zemco car. They sold the speed shop. So I don't know what the future is. I just don't see us having the Zemco car anymore. Dalton Ferris, what are your thoughts on Spencer Basin with Jason Myers Racing this year? I was really disappointed at the end of last year. I know that. I like Spencer. I think Spencer's a decent driver. He got into Swindell Speed Lab car and came in here in one in Central PA, which isn't easy to do. Tracks are different than what they normally see, but I don't know. I expect them to do better than they did at the end of last year, but I was disappointed. I thought they'd hit the ground running quicker. I do think he'll win a couple races this year. And, I don't know if contending for the titles in the cards. I still think it's Brad Sweet's to lose. I think Ty Wolfgang and Sweet look good at Volusia. I think Brent Marks is going to be better this year. Rico, not sure how Rico's going to be. Tyler Courtney, I don't think they beat them. I think you're looking at fifth, sixth in the point standing, something like that. But I think Spencer definitely wins some races. Just got an update real quick. The new owners of Zemco put out a paint scheme for their car at Motorama. Okay. I understand. I'm sorry. I didn't get that, but yes, they bought the business. And so they put out a scheme. Question was up. Billy Dietrich, did they fix the internet service at Bath Valley? No, unfortunately we're going to be using Starlink, I think, which it's better than nothing. We used it at Grandview last year because they shut off their internet. They didn't want to pay for it. So we had to use Starlink there. I think it's Starlink. You better get Starlink, Billy. Jordan Myers, projected car count for the weekend at Lincoln. Ooh. Guys aren't going to like this. I'm going to say 23. I don't think people want to run in 40-degree weather anymore. I think there's some teams that aren't running for points. Cameron Smith in the Rick Lefevre car. Chad Trout, not running for points there this year. Trey Hivner, not that he was out opening day anyway. He's not coming back. I don't know how many guys want to come out in 40-degree weather. So I'm going to say 23 to 25. I don't have it much higher than that. Santos de la Cruz, do you know if Freddie is going to be turning his own wrenches or does he have a crew chief? Freddie always works on his cars. It's not, I don't think he'll be the crew chief per se. I think he'll have a lot of input, same as always. I think it's just going to go back to what it was. I do not know of any quote unquote hired crew chief, but he'll be fine. I know I did a 90 at 9 on that this morning. And I think he's going to go back to winning 6 to 8 races, 9 races, somewhere in there. Obviously, he'll compete for the Williams Grove and Lincoln Speedway titles, in part because guys just don't run for points. Troy Wagaman, if he runs all the races at Lincoln, will be his biggest competitor at Lincoln. I think he'll do fine. I think last year was an anomaly. Something to think about. Freddie still had 32 top fives last year, and that was the same as 2022 and 2023. He just didn't get to victory lane as much. We'll see what happens. I am concerned about the 51, though, because they have not been good in that car for about 2 to 3 years. Dwayne Mathis, with the temps being below freezing for a few weeks and Saturday barely breaking 40 degrees, what are the chances the track crew will be able to make the track surface raceable? I'm not a track guy, but it's supposed to get down to 17 Friday. So that's why I think Saturday's out. I don't think they race Saturday. Sunday's getting up to 47, and they're above freezing on Saturday afternoon, which should help. So I don't know. We'll see. I think they'll be able to race. Look, they've raced when it's been colder. Not that I agreed with it. They've raced there. I've been there when they had snow, rain, and sun all on the same day. So they'll be fine getting the track ready Sunday. Saturday, I think they'll push away from the table on that. John Kiley, I see the new verbiage on the Outlaws rule on tire prep. What does this mean for PA teams? Do people here do the wet grinding? First off, I'm going to say this about Simple Green. I don't know why you would use it. We went through this a few years ago with the All-Stars. I'm probably dating myself. It's probably 4 or 5 years ago because I lose track of years. But they had meetings about it. It was at the drivers' meetings. I don't know why anyone would use Simple Green. You know you're rolling the dice. Anybody who gets caught with that, I have 0.0 sympathy. Because if you don't know it by now, you're the problem. Simple. As far as the wet grinding, no, I don't think it's going to be a big deal. I think, and these teams adjust. I don't think it'll be a big deal. Dan Doherty, do we see any tracks added to Florida Speedweeks next year? Ocala, will High Limit make their way back to Florida next year? You know, Danny Dietrich brought this up today. I hate to keep bringing him up, but he's on social media a lot. I don't know. I don't know if High Limit, I think whether High Limit gets back there is going to depend on the success of Vegas. And the other thing is they have that first West Coast swing now. So making teams go to Florida, then going to the West Coast makes 0 sense. I don't think you'll see that. So unless that swing at Vegas or the West Coast does not do well, I don't think it'll be a High Limit event. Could other tracks be added? I heard there's some safety concerns at some of them, that was one of the reasons there wasn't another 410 race. Honestly, I'd like to see the Outlaws run it. This Southern Raceway, Ryan Hand and I were talking about that on the podcast today. He said it looked nice. I don't know. I have not been there, and we didn't really know much about the safety end of it. I wouldn't mind seeing the Outlaws run another race there or an unsanctioned race, but I just don't know if that's going to happen. It's a risk. It's been done before on the way to Charlotte. Hasn't worked. You know, money. It's all about money. How many full-time cars do you think for Fast and All-Stars? I think the All-Stars have 10 now. Fast, what a weird situation. They're now part of Power I, so which I don't understand how all that works. I think the All-Stars will get to probably 12 to 14. I think you could have maybe a couple of more guys show up for All-Stars. Fast. The nice thing is All-Stars is 30 races. So that leaves a lot of wiggle room as, there's a lot of races in between to run. So hopefully it doesn't get too saturated out in Ohio, but I think 12 to 14 for All-Stars. Fast will probably be in the 10 to 12 range. Have you talked to Bill Baylog since Florida? I have not. I'm hearing soft tissue injury. Not to give away too much, obviously HIPAA and whatever. It was not broken. That's what I was told by somebody close to their team. Can Selinsgrove really have success against the Grove on a Friday night? No. And it's not just a car thing. Think about it this way. The bulk of your sprint car fans are, I would say, probably Halifax, Newport, South. Okay. You're going to ask people, and it's huge, Harrisburg and South. So you're asking a large contingent of people to go up 11 and 15 on a Friday night. It's not just cars. I think it's fans. And I don't know if the Selinsgrove area is big enough from a support standpoint that's a fat purse. And I don't know. I don't like the move. I've said that many times. I don't know why your first year out, you would go against the Grove for some nights. And I don't care if you ask 3 or 4 guys and they said you should do it. They don't run your business. And at the end of the day, they leave the track and go home. And it's nothing against, I always support the racer and most things, but you can't ask 3 or 4 guys or 5 guys and bank your decisions off that. What are you expecting for the car count at Volusia for the Outlaws? Will any high limit guys show up? I don't expect any high limit guys because they have to be out in Vegas 11 days later. I would say 23, 24. They're going to have to pay some guys probably. I think you could see some tow money paid to some guys to show up. It's no surprise. It's been done many times, like when the Outlaws have gone to New York, so on and so forth. So I'm thinking in that 23 to 24 range. I don't expect more than that. If it would get to 30, I would be stunned. And I don't think any high limit guys will be there. So how would you schedule PA Speedweek? In regard to number of races or tracks, I'll answer both. I don't have a big problem with doubling up at tracks. I just don't. And the reason I don't is because Speedweek was put in place for Lincoln, Port Royal. Well, not even Port Royal originally, because they weren't a part of the original Speedweek. It was Lincoln, Susquehanna, and Williams Grove. But it was built for the local tracks, the big sprint car tracks. That's why it was put in place. And when Alan Kreitzer started it. So if Lincoln loses a show, the idea of the second show is they don't get shut out and they don't lose one of their premier events. Whereas the tracks like, Grandview, they have the 76er. BAPS has other tracks, but they should have been on it anyway. Hagerstown, that's a special events track anyway, and they run, different big late model shows. Their monster truck thing's huge. They have other big events. But the other thing is, the tracks, where are you going to go? You can't go. I don't think you want to go to Bedford. I think there's some concern about going out that far and then coming back. There's some safety issues at some other tracks that are not on the schedule that I know have been discussed. So, look, I think it's a lot about nothing. And guess what? Speedweek does well. The fans show up. I think adding Path Valley this year was good because people have been clamoring for that. And people love 410 races at Path Valley. BAPS had a good year last year. They made money on every 410 sprint car show. Now they're promoting real well too, which is another story. But again, that's what I would do with PA Speedweek. I'm fine with the way it is. If they would add, say, Big Diamond, I wouldn't be overly upset, but I don't know if that's something that could happen. Clinton County's on the rise, but again, it's a long trip. So I don't know how that would logistically fit. So anything else, guys? We only had one call this week. Dalton, where do you think Brad Loyette would be if he didn't get hurt and had to retire? I don't like doing shoulda, coulda, woulda on that. because we just don't know. He wrecked hard sometimes. So it's a shame that he had to retire. I don't know. I think it's, again, would he be running Outlaws or High Limit? Maybe High Limit. I don't know. That's a difficult one to answer because you're projecting so far out. But he was getting better. He was having some good runs and was improving. So who knows where he'd be. I think Sam's will run the Bike Week show before heading to Las Vegas. That is true. Yeah, he lives in Northport, Florida, so he's already down there. I could see that. Yeah, I forgot about Sam's being in Northport, Florida. My mistake. He could run it, but if he wasn't there, I wouldn't be surprised either. Do you get out to Vegas? Doesn't take 11 days, but man, if you destroy a car at Volusia, blow a motor, whatever, I don't know if you want to go that. I don't know if you want to test that. I've never been to Path Alley. How many fans can it seat? They got new stands. They got stands from Trailway. So it used to be not much at all. But they've improved the facility. I got to give them credit. They put money into the facility. They got Trailway stands. I'm not 100% sure how much they seat anymore because, again, it changed, and I haven't been there since they had the new stands. But I also wouldn't be surprised, and I think they probably will have to. They're probably going to have to bring in some stands for maybe Speedweek and definitely High Limit. I think that High Limit show, you better get there 3 hours early. I think it's going to be a huge, huge crowd. This may sound crazy, but why doesn't High Limit and Flow with Lucas, Short Track Super Series, etc., build a track down in Florida? Every race this year for sprints and lates were jammed. Do an end of the year race also. I don't think it's as easy. I mean, you're looking at a $2 million build, $1 million build, depending on land. That's a big ass. Flow already owns part of High Limit. So you're asking them to put more money into it. I don't know. And then who's going to operate the track? Who are going to be the people? You got to have somebody to promote the track, operate the track. I mean, the Outlaws have Volusia, but they have a guy in place there who promotes the races. So now you're going to go out and hire somebody. And that's the thing with Flow and High Limit. World Racing Group has an infrastructure of about, if you add all their people, their workers, 250, 300 people. If you count all their freelancers and guys across the country who, maybe shoot in one region as opposed to another. I just don't know if the infrastructure at Flow and High Limit is to the point where you could build a track. I think that's a difficult sell. Santos, how do you feel about the debate between purses, meaning at the top to attract big, meaning piled at the top to attract big teams, or spread it through the field to help your local racers? Look, I think you need a mix. One of the best guys to talk to about this is Lance DeWeese. We had a deep dive with him in November. He's a guy who, I know when the Tuscarora 50 went to $56,000, he was a guy who said back it down to 30 and put that 26,000 down through. And he was going to be one of the guys running for the win. Greg Hodnett was a lot like that. I do not know the threshold, but I do know there comes a point where you've got to think down below as opposed to always up top. I think it's a happy medium. There's where I think you talk to drivers. Hey, what draws you? And you can see with their schedules too, what they race, what they don't. So look, the purse thing's going to be a slippery slope because they can't keep increasing, because then the ticket prices are going to keep going up, and racing fans have had it real good for a long time. $20 to get in, $25 to get in. You can't go to a movie for that and get popcorn. So I think race fans aren't used to paying real world entertainment prices. But they're going to get used to it because the purses keep going up. Track's still got to make money. So it's a slippery slope. And I don't, Tyler Swank, talk to owners, not drivers. How about crew chiefs? But yes, talk to owners as well. A lot of family owned teams now, so you can just talk to the driver. But yes, I agree. Talk to owners. Look, I'm the one who believes there should be a governing body. Sorry, not sorry. I think it should consist of drivers, owners from different regions of the country. I think there should be a governing body national, and it should feed into regional levels. There should be one in each region. It's not that many regions. You got the Midwest, the East, and West. That's it. And even though they don't have the same needs, so to speak, or the areas are different, we could hash out a lot of problems. And I think the purses are definitely something that's going to be a slippery slope in the coming years. Anything else? Yep. From Minnesota, and I'll say I'm looking forward to Path Valley as much as any show this season. Love that place. Path Valley's gaining a lot of steam. Last year, there was a big push to get them on the Speedweek schedule. That's been going on for years. But last year really picked up. And when High Limit made that announcement that they were going there, that they were going to try it, I think that was the difference between getting that Speedweek show. It's gaining some attention, and it'll be on the national level, which I know will please a lot of people in that region. I'm actually anxious for it as well. So, Dick Jones, prediction for the icebreaker. I took Troy Wagaman Jr. on the show today. It's on the podcast, which will be out in the next day or two. So I'll say, look, it's a draw show. So if you draw fourth row in your heat race, you're screwed on a day surface, unless the track is just perfect, which they've had some good day shows. Don't get me wrong. Look, I think you have to, if Dietrich draws well, he'll be good because they have races already. There's no shaking down, so to speak. I think Troy Wagaman Jr. last year, no DNFs, only two races outside the top 10. So I think watch out for Matt Campbell. Matt Campbell, I think that FTR team is pretty good, and I think they had a good first year. I also like Aaron Bollinger early in the Travis Esch machine. So I think those are the guys, whoever draws best out of those four or five guys. All right, we have a caller late in the game, but we have a caller. It's going to be patched through here. Find out who it is. I think it's being screened now.
Hi, Jeremy.
Hello, how are you?
Fine, it's Mike again.
Yes.
Hey, I just heard you talking about the sprint car overseeing body.
Mm-hmm.
So Australia has one, is that right?
Yes. Yes, I do.
Yeah. I would disagree with that. Needed to be in the United States at this point. Yeah, I think it's good in ideology, but I don't think that practically at this point that it's too much money will be spent in the bureaucracy of it all. And I just don't see that happening. Good idea, but I don't think practical at this time.
Well, I think you're spending money. The problem with not think or about bureaucracy is, first off, money's being spent anyway. The question I would have is, can anybody get along enough to do it? I think that's the bigger issue. And then everybody wants their slice of the pie. Now, if you're talking about that, I agree. But just from a money standpoint, it would take nothing to form it. And you're not going to, and it's got to be equal representation. I think you take some of the money issues out of it with equal representation between, okay, Outlaws, High Limit. I think your regional series get a say. And then I think you have owners. You have a few owners in there. And they can be track owners too, like a Todd Query or a Tony Stewart. I don't know if they do it. And then when you filter down to the regional levels, that gets into your like Central Pennsylvania. I think then it could work. If equal representation will take that out of play. The issue is getting everybody to agree. It's getting everybody to agree.
Equal representation. That's awesome. But I'm just saying, here in Central Pennsylvania, yes, right?
I think it'd be easier at the national level.
I think that
than in Central Pennsylvania.
Yeah, exactly. That's my point exactly. I think here in Central Pennsylvania, that or even in Pennsylvania, in the state of Pennsylvania, or you're talking about United States, though, right?
I think there should be a national governing body, and then under it should be your different regions.
All right.
Because here's the thing.
Yeah.
If you're going to move forward, and everybody's talking about the sport getting bigger, it's not going to get any bigger in its current state. It's not going to happen. It's just not.
Yeah, we're getting better and better. We're getting better and better every day.
Well, there's a lot of room to grow, and in teching especially.
Absolutely. All right. You have a great night now.
Yep, you too. Thank you. Charles, when do the other local tracks start to use apps like My Race Pass to purchase your tickets ahead of time like BAPS does? I don't know. How can we be in 2025 and not be able to get online tickets? It seems like a no-brainer to me. It's easily done, and the refunds are, My Race Pass handles everything. I can't believe this isn't being done. I don't know if it's laziness. I don't know if it's just archaic thinking. I don't know what it is, but there's no reason that there shouldn't be online ticketing for every event on your schedule. That's it. How good is Billy Dietrich's car? Are you sitting next to him? I don't know. Look, Billy had, and I got to talk to Billy for a story because I know he had some injuries last year. Hope he's doing well. It's going to be good to see him back at the track. So we'll see how good his car is. Online tickets is one problem. The line at the pit gate is another. Let teams pay ahead of time. Well, I just think, again, this goes back to why this sport doesn't progress like it should. Part of that, and I'm going to take 3 more questions at most. But look, let's modernize a little bit. Why can't teams pre-register, get a QR code, boom? I think Tyler Swank said it best, can't hide cash on an app. That may be, but eventually, tracks go out of business, as we're seeing now. But look, I just don't know why we can't be modern a little bit and progress. And we have archaic thinking. We're about 10 to 15 years behind real world businesses. And until we get out of that vortex, so to speak, it's going to remain the same. That's it. Matt Campbell for the icebreaker. Don't doubt it. I really was impressed with that team last year, especially their first year together. I thought they did a great job, and I think Matt definitely gasses it. So I'm not going to count him out. If you're not associated with a race car, you have no business being in the pits. I do think there should be an age limit, and I think it should be 16, unless you're a driver. And even then, look, we could get into, I'm not going to get into the age limits. That's a discussion for next week. But to me, to be in a pit area, 14 to 16, I don't want to see your toddler in there. I almost saw a driver's kid get hit. And when I say hit, would have been over. And the grandmother was chasing after him. It just, too much can happen, especially at, say, a Lincoln when they come flying around the corner off the track. Absolutely. Yes, I have a medical procedure tomorrow. No, I held off taking all the pills and stuff. I need the cleansing stuff. I held off on taking that until after the show. I'm actually later on it. So one more then we're going to call tonight. Any news after Volusia on that dumpster fire between the freight rails that Donnie is forced to run? Wow. I haven't heard it called that yet. Great question, though. No, if you're expecting the Ford to go away, it's not going to happen. It's a nice thought, but I don't think it's going to happen. That they're committed to Ford. That's the way it's going to be. So as much, that's it. I wish I could say. It's hard to watch. It's very hard to watch, but that's going to wrap up this week. SprintCarUnlimited.com live. We'll be back next week. Don't forget to call, chat, tune in, leave your comments below. This show will be up all week. So again, we'll see you next week.